Hi, Chrissy Green here with part 3 of our rainy day edit. In the first two videos, I showed you how I would choose my file and send it over to Photoshop, and then I cleaned it up. In my second video, we laid down the ground and the frog and the rock. Now in this video, we're going to add some rain. So on a new layer above everything else, I'm going to take a brush, a white brush, at 100% opacity, and I'm going to modify the way the brush works. Right now, that's the way the brush looks. It's a solid line, or so you think. The brush is actually made up of a bunch of dots. Over here, you have your brush palette, and if you don't have these options, you can actually go into Window, Brush, and Brush Presets. So I'm over here in the brush window, and it looks like a straight line, but what it really is just how close I'm going to make those dots. If you make them close enough, it is a solid line. You push out the spacing and you have a broken line. I'm going to go with 100% hardness and kind of a small size. It's going to be raindrop size. The next thing we're going to go is to shape dynamics, and we will turn up our size jitter. Jitter is just a fancy way of saying how random or how much variation of this element do you want. So a size jitter at 100% is going to give me a wide range of how large these drops are going to be, which is great because you want the rain to look random and you don't want it to just be all the same size dot. Then we're going to go to scattering. We're going to scatter at maximum scatter on both axes. We give a little test there. That's not bad. Count and count jitter is just how dense you want that line to be. Okay, so we'll get rid of both of those. So now on this layer, I'm just going to randomly drop it in. Not even worried. Super easy. So there's that. Now I'm going to make my brush much larger, because you got to have a few larger raindrops in there. It doesn't matter if it goes over your subject. I'm just going to drop some of these in here. Don't forget about the foreground and the sides. You want a relatively easy coating, and all I'm doing is just making my brush larger and smaller so that I can really fill this in. There we go. That looks like rain, right? No, I know it doesn't. So what we're going to do is add a motion blur to this one. So it's up here under Filter, Blur, and Motion Blur. And there you can see it starts to look a lot more raindroppy. You want to give it a bit of an angle, something along these lines. And the distance is going to be how much of a drag you've got on that motion blur. So the higher up we pull it, the more we're going to stretch those, but it stops looking a lot like rain if you go too far with it. We'll just go there. And if I've got any that are kind of a big distraction, I can actually just get rid of them. I don't want that one to cover her face. That one's maybe a little too big. And then I'm just going to lower the opacity a little bit. And then I'm going to add just another one over top, just for a little bit of variety there, because I can, you can do this 100 times just to build it up. Anywhere you think that there might be a little bit of rain missing, add in some more drops. And anywhere you think that you've got too much, you can go in and erase them. And that is pretty much all I did to that image. I think at the bottom of my rock, it's looking a little on the fake side there. So I will go in, maybe with my eraser, and just give it a straight line. There we go. And perhaps I will burn that just a little bit at the bottom. And I can burn it under the frog too. There we go. So that is how you make your own rain overlay. It's really, really, really simple. The only thing you want to do is when you're done, you may want to go in and turn those things off. just so that they're not there the next time you use your brush. So now that I've done all that, I will hit File and Save, and this is going to kick it back to Lightroom, where I can decide what else I may want to do with my image. I love images with a really high clarity to them, and it gives me sort of an artistic feeling. I'm going to go ahead and up the saturation on that. And I think the blues could probably be tweaked a little. So I'm going to bring their luminance down, their saturation up just a bit. I think the only other thing I really did on this was maybe hint of vignette. And to kind of keep going with the painterly look, a really hefty luminance as well. If you find that your image is feeling a little cool, and sometimes they can, you can go in, a little too much noise reduction. In my shadows, I'm just going to drop in a hint of warmth. And you get that under the split toning. You can decide how warm to go. And you can also apply one to the highlights as well, maybe a different color. There we go. So it's a very subtle difference, but it's there. So that's pretty much it. When you get to this point, it's just a matter of playing around with, the feeling, the feeling that you're trying to get from your image. I think that looks pretty good. I don't know. What do you think? I think that looks pretty good. It's probably not exactly the image. It is the image. Every time you make a rain layer, unless you save it as a PNG, it's going to be different. It's going to be one of a kind. But this is the image I just edited with you today. This is the one that I did yesterday. I might prefer today's a little bit more. But yeah, so that's just how we do the editing here. These pictures, when I'm not talking and explaining myself, really don't take me long to do. I might spend anywhere from half an hour to 8 hours on an image, just depending on how much fantasy or how much I'm trying to divert myself away from reality in them. But this one in particular, I think it took me about 15-20 minutes to do. And I think the end result is really adorable. It's a great way to take a studio shot and just inject a little bit of whimsy into it, and make it something unique. And that is what we strive for here. My studio's name is Creative Isle. So when you have a name like Creative Isle, people come to you thinking that you're going to have something creative. So I can't really keep pushing the traditional stuff or the trendy stuff. And my clients do like to get a little trendy here and there and a little traditional here and there, but there is also the expectation that there is also creativity here. So using Photoshop in my images is a great way for me to bring some of that creativity to my images in a way that nobody else in my immediate area is doing. So without further ado, if you've watched all 3 videos in this series, I thank you very much for sticking with me from beginning to end. If you have anything that you would like to see, feel free to leave it in the comments for me. I do check my comments. If you have ideas for videos, or if you even have feedback on anything that I went over in this series, feel free to let me know. Hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Happy editing, happy shooting, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.